Hey y'all, it's my review for the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 13 Reunion Part 1. The ladies delivered. I was fully entertained from beginning to end. This was a really good Part 1 that has me very optimistic for the next two parts. I also think that after the season we saw, we deserve a good reunion. And so far, I am happy. Let's get into it. So we don't get any behind the scenes as the ladies are getting dressed with Andy. We just see the ladies coming in. I didn't do a reunion looks review, mostly because I thought everyone looked great. Even Teresa. I think collectively, this is the best this cast has looked for this franchise ever. Over all 13 seasons. This is the best they've all collectively looked. If you disagree with me, let me know, but I don't have that much to say about what anybody's wearing. I think best dress would go to, I would say a tie between Dolores and Danielle, shockingly. And there wasn't any worst dress. Oh my God, why is she wearing that? So good job, ladies. Good job. So the decor of their reunion is inspired by their trip to Scotland when they stayed in the castle. And I do think it's cute that they have these paintings on the wall with all the ladies' faces. So then as soon as Andy starts the reunion, Teresa's phone rings, and it rings loud. Now it looks like the way Andy was looking at Teresa, he wanted to curse her ass out, but then she said, "Oh, look who's calling me. It's Giudice." When Andy hears this, his face relaxes and he says, "Oh, answer it, answer it." Do y'all think that was staged by Teresa? I mean, just knowing her and the attention that she seeks, I just wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, they have him on speaker now, and he's asking Teresa, does Jennifer's husband do eye bag surgery or whatever, but not for him. So then Andy takes the phone from her and starts asking him a barrage of questions, how is he? Does he watch the show? Is he dating anybody? And I don't care because Joe Giudice ain't shit, his ex-wife ain't shit, and I don't care how he's doing. So after that stunt, they finally get started with the reunion. Of course, we start with Teresa, and before Andy even asks her a question, he's like, give me your hand, give me your hand. What you trying to do right now? Feel my heart, feel my heart. Hasn't she done this before with somebody? Y'all let me know when she done it before, but can we just get on with the questioning? Your heart is beating fast because you're about to tell a bunch of lies. Side note, this cameraman is fixated on Melissa's expressions, but she does look like a woman who has had enough of the bullshit. Andy then asks both ladies who are sitting in first chair, what are their goals for this reunion? And it looks like they are officially done with each other, and I'm just so curious how they're going to move forward into season 14. They may have to just revamp 80% of the cast. Andy then asked Teresa about her love bubble, and she said it's doing fine, the wedding was great. The only thing that's been weighing on me is my family. And she's blaming Melissa and Joe because they're the ones. It's their fault. It's all their fault. They start getting into it already, and Melissa brings up how you said I was cheating on my husband. And it was hold on, we're gonna get to it. Then Teresa tells her, oh, well, we need to be like Beverly Hills, one at a time. Melissa immediately comes back and says, well, you're not Beverly Hills, so that's not gonna happen. The nerve of Teresa trying to compare herself to the ladies of Beverly Hills. Girl, let's not. Melissa's coming out swinging, and I love it. And yes, y'all, I am team Melissa. I'm sorry. Tree stumps, this might not be the review for you, and I get it if you don't want to watch. You're fine with her lies. I have never seen so many people cape for a lying moron since Donald Trump, actually. So then Andy continues to talk about the wedding and asks Teresa why didn't Dina show up, because y'all know her and Dina was like this. And she says that Dina didn't want to be on camera. That's a lie. Andy's follow-up question was, well, all she had to do was just not sign a release to be on camera. Teresa then says, well, she didn't want to let anybody know that she was there. Another lie. It's only been 10 minutes into the reunion, y'all. Andy's implying that is there something going on between her and Dina. And Teresa has a poker face. She will never admit that her and Dina are beefing or whatever. I think they are, but they're being mum for whatever reason. If y'all didn't know, the rumor was that Louis and Dina's husband, they went into some dealings together and they fell out over it because, common denominator is Louis, because the same thing happened with him and Joe Gorga. But Teresa's saying that's not true, and I don't believe anything that comes out of Teresa's mouth. Andy then asked Melissa about what her husband Joe said on the show about it, and then she says that he should have never spoke on it. I mean, she didn't say it wasn't true. She just said he never should have spoke on it. And here we go again about Teresa not inviting Melissa's mom and her sisters. She's sticking to the same script. It wasn't her fault. It's never her fault. Melissa, of course, calls out Teresa on her bullshit. They're going back and forth again, and Teresa's accusing Melissa of when she was single, they would never invite her to anything. Melissa calls her out and says, that's a lie. I have so many receipts in my phone of you hanging out with us. You even liked one of our neighbors or whatever, put her out on Front Street. We then see the pictures provided by production, and again, Teresa's contradicting herself. Andy then brings up that Melissa and Joe liked Louis at first, and Teresa agrees and says, yeah, I didn't even want to bring him on the show at first. They brought him on the show, and then Melissa has to contradict her again. She was like, well, actually, on the girls' trip, my husband told me that Louis contacted him and was like, oh, we should go up there. We should go up there. So yes, he definitely wanted to be on TV. Then she throws in how Louis knew who she was before he met her, as well as saying that he knew Alexia from Miami, how he wanted to go out with her. Now, this actually checks out because Alexia and Teresa, they're basically the same person, y'all. Margaret even chimes in and says, yeah, he wanted to date Alexia first. Teresa says, you're a liar. Melissa's like, Teresa, come on. You've been doing this all season, with her lies. And then Teresa's like, you know what? After today, I'm glad I won't have to see you anymore. Melissa's like, oh, well, where you going? Get her. And then Teresa doubles down and says, oh, well, you're leaving. And, I think Teresa tried to put her balls on the table and say like, bitch, this is my show. I'm not going anywhere. You're the one that's leaving. I really hope she eats those words and she's gagged because honestly, he could take off Melissa and Teresa from the show. I wouldn't care. Andy's reaction when Teresa said that, and then Melissa's like, oh, I am? And then we see Teresa saying, well, I don't know how we're going to coexist on this show. And I'm like, I don't know either. So maybe y'all both need to go. I would hate it if Teresa stayed and they got rid of Melissa because then they would really create a monster because she got her fucking way. But anyway, Teresa lets Andy know that regardless, she's going to be out of my life after tonight. Melissa doesn't have a rebuttal for that, and the whole cast is just kind of stoic after that statement. I mean, it is sad, but I think the feeling is mutual, and I don't think Melissa gives a shit. So next they're talking about Teresa's hairstyle for her wedding. Fast forward. So then apparently the only drama that happened at Teresa's wedding was when Margaret, she showed up to the actual ceremony, but then during the reception, she left early, and this really pissed Teresa off. Margaret then brings up something that happened off the show, of course, dealing with private investigators, but then Andy wants to get to it later. Ooh, so thank God we take a break from Teresa versus Melissa, and we get to Dolores' reel for the season. So then Dolores gets her round of questioning, and I will say, after watching it the first time, she was very transparent. I appreciated that. She says what she loves about Paulie is that he's just there for her. He's in her life, actually. Unlike that dead doctor that she was seeing that was in love with Frank and not her. I also love what she said about Frank. She said he'll always be in her life, but he can't be in her life the way that Paulie is for her. She can't have two number ones in her life. Do y'all agree with that? I thought that made sense. You can't have two number ones in your life. We found out that David, the ain't shit dead doctor, he's still friends with Frank. They live together still. And then, Frank, he has his little, his 20-something-year-old girlfriend come over too. It is a roommate situation. I do not get it. Andy, that's shade. He told Dolores, you respond to that like it's normal. Child, now Dolores implying that Frank don't even pay David rent. And it's because she said that Frank built the house. So maybe he don't have to pay rent. I don't know, something else is going on in that household. Dolores don't give two fucks. She said they can be friends. I'm happy they gained the friendship out of this. She don't care. She got her man, Paulie. That's all she care about. So then we get a little shocking revelation in regards of Dolores and Paulie's relationship. Paulie is still married, and he's been married for a long time. He's separated, but Dolores' reason is that he just thought he would never get married again. What? Now, Dolores, you're my girl, but that don't make no sense. You need to make sure he finalizes the divorce, especially if he's talking about marrying you. I'm surprised it didn't come out on the show. We found out afterward, which was kind of crazy, and she's so nonchalant about it. So next up, we're on Danielle's reel. I'll try not to fast forward. Basically, her storyline was her strained relationship with her brother, her beef with Rachel as well as Margaret, and being up Teresa and Jennifer's ass the entire season. So Danielle gets an update on her brother. She said they haven't talked in almost 3 years, and then tomorrow is actually when she's going to see him, but it's going to be at a funeral. And she's hoping for some sort of reconciliation. I'm sorry, the story still doesn't make sense to me. There has to be something else outside of you blocking him on Instagram and then him blocking you out of his life. So now Margaret's in the hot seat for, I'm guessing, what she implied about Danielle's relationship with her brother. And now Margaret, she's just kind of backtracking, saying that, well, I should have never said anything about it. I only want good things for you and your brother. I'm sorry, I'd be like, fuck that bitch and her brother. Margaret then clarifies what she meant when she told her about forgiving and forgetting. She then says it was taken out of context, but she still means it. She says it's a theme of this franchise. And most of the cast agrees with that, but then Melissa raises her hand and says, well, yeah, definitely, I forgive and forget. And then Teresa raises her hand, well, I forgive and forget too. Ladies, y'all are both lying this time. So I'm holding y'all both accountable. Be quiet. Anyway, I agree with Margaret when she's telling Danielle that I was nothing but kind to you. I was helping you out with your business, but then you came at me. You was talking about me. And I'm like, for the people that don't like Margaret in the chat, do y'all not see that? She was so up Teresa and Jennifer's ass about just knowing the gossip and the tea concerning Margaret's ex-best friend. So she definitely wasn't concerned about Margaret, even though Margaret was nice to her. Margaret then tells Danielle that you flipped on me like a pancake, and I agree. So then Andy asks Melissa the status of her and Danielle's friendship because of all that happened in the season finale. It looks like Melissa was trying to answer the question, but then Teresa interjects and says, well, you were the newbie. Of course she wanted to be nice to you so you could be on her side. As if you didn't do that either. Shut up. Like, she keeps interrupting, so now her and Melissa are going back and forth. That was funny with Teresa. I get it. Melissa's giving it to Teresa, in my opinion. She's just like, you really gotta stop with the bullshit and really believe in like what the haters are saying. And then Margaret chimes in, referring to her haters as tree stumps. And Teresa, she ain't that bright. She thought that Margaret was calling her a tree stump, and then Teresa told her, well, look at you. Everyone's laughing because, of course, it went right over her head. Anyway, they continue with Danielle's questioning since this is her segment, and I forgot because it's just not that interesting. He asked her, what do you think about the majority of the ladies that didn't really take you seriously and you were like the butt of their jokes, particularly Margaret, Jackie? Was it Rachel too? I'm not sure, but she says, oh, it was just such typical mean girl behavior. I don't care. And then she's like, yeah, you call me a wannabe? Well, I don't want to be anything like you. Like, they're giggling at her now. Like, I can't take her seriously. She was such a flop on this show. She came on here like she was so big and bad. That was a Kim Zolciak reference, by the way. But anyway, I'm sure y'all didn't catch that. But yeah, she tried to make it seem like she was just this person that you don't want to fuck with. And actually, she would be the first person to run and cry. Margaret's defending herself, and she mentions endorsements or whatever. That was some slick shade on Jennifer. Jennifer then leaps up and is like, I don't really need endorsements. Andy, where's your endorsements? Right? Because you don't have to post anything. You don't need endorsements. Andy cuts her off real quick and says, I definitely need endorsements. And he ain't lying. He will let us know that a book of his is out. Margaret and Jennifer are going at it now. And again, the attention is taken off of Danielle because she's such a flop. Like, Andy has to reel in the conversation to get back to questioning her. So then, I'm so glad Andy called Danielle out on her behavior and how she tried to come off as opposed to how she really reacts to conflict and drama, which is by crying and running away. Oh, Lord. So then she's like, I think I was just shocked because I really love Rachel. And here we go with the Rachel versus Danielle. This was the most pointless argument of the season. Like, all the women go run tell that. And for some reason, Danielle just latched on this story and did not want to let it go with Rachel. And then Margaret was drug into it. And then because it was a rumor involving what Jennifer told Danielle, Jennifer was dragged into it. And then Margaret and Jennifer would start fighting. And then yes, we were like, can we please move on? So now the question is, was Rachel fueling the fire by telling Margaret about what Danielle said? And Andy's asking her, like, now that you watched it on TV, like, what do you think? Like, did she misrepresent the information? Margaret said she didn't think so. I didn't think so. She literally just said what Danielle was saying, and I think Margaret deserved to know what was being said about her. I'm also confused how Danielle's like, no, because you didn't let it go. Danielle, you always talked about it. Always. Whew, so now Danielle and Rachel are going at it, and Danielle has the theatrics turned up to 1,000. Rachel tells Danielle, don't take your insecurities out on me. And Danielle's like, me? My balls drag across the floor! Somebody give her an Emmy, something for this clownery, please. Andy then interjects and says, you know, I honestly love seeing you two get along, and this was one of the dumbest fights I've ever seen. So then you can even tell from the ladies' reactions that, you know, they want to be back on the next season. So, of course, now they're trying to reel it all back in and try to feel like it's not a big deal. So then Dolores enters the conversation and does a little mediation between the ladies. The ladies say both of their sides, and it seems like now they both agree that they're not going to bring it up anymore. And I'm sure they're not, because they know that the boss doesn't like this fight between them. After this segment, I was so excited that they wrapped this up quickly in part 1, since we have 2 whole parts to go, and they can save that space for shit that happened behind the scenes and stuff that we really want to know. So next up, we're on Melissa's reel, and y'all know she don't have much of a storyline outside of her war with Teresa. But to be fair, I think it goes both ways. Like, what is Teresa going to talk about now that if Melissa isn't on the show anymore? But we get to the topic of the kids, specifically when Rachel asked Teresa that question on the bus in Ireland about how is she with Melissa and Joe's kids. And first they're going back and forth on whether it was a setup question or not. Now, Rachel, I like you, but when I first saw that scene, I was like, now why would you ask Teresa that? Because you know what she's going to say. Teresa doesn't really mince words when it comes to the truth or telling lies. And you know she was going to say something that started an argument with Melissa. So I got to agree with Teresa that it came off as a setup question. Andy asked Dolores, did she think it was a setup question? She said no, but she was wondering, why would she ask Teresa that? Why don't you ask Melissa that question? But here we go with the next back and forth with Teresa and Melissa, involving whether or not Teresa's kids hate Melissa. And I gotta agree with Melissa. Like, you see all of Teresa's kids, almost all of them, roll their eyes when it comes to their aunt or uncle. Like, you can tell Teresa's been in their ear. And to Melissa's point, her kids have not said anything about Teresa. I also noticed how they keep bringing up the podcast clip where Melissa and Joe are talking about Teresa's kids and putting food on the table. I think that's different than seeing Teresa's kids talk negatively about Joe and Melissa. Here we go with the split screen again. They're calling each other liars. They're going back and forth. All Andy could do is just shuffle his cards as they're arguing with each other. So they finally move on, and Andy asks Melissa, how does she feel about Margaret joking with her that she could do better than her husband? And this is because earlier in the season, when Jennifer was trying to befriend Melissa, she was trying to get her against Margaret, saying oh, well, you know Margaret's ex-best friend, she was telling me how Margaret always said that you could do better than Joe. Why would she do that? Trying to get into Melissa's head, and I'm glad Melissa peeped that game. Melissa tells Annie that she always thought Margaret was joking with her, and of course Jennifer and Teresa have something smart to say. So somehow, some way, Margaret's ex-best friend Laura is again mentioned on this show. She definitely needs a check. And of course it's brought up by Jennifer, and then Andy asked her, did you invite her to your season 13? I think it was a rap party or something like that. And Jennifer's like, yes. And she says she talks to her. How obsessed you have to be to get back at Margaret? It's getting weird. Jennifer asked Margaret, oh, she was such a good friend of you, why did you want her on the show? Thinking that she got her with that question. But Margaret says, I wanted her on the show. And then Andy confirms that. Jennifer now is speaking for Laura, saying she is convinced that you blocked her from being on the show. As if Margaret has that much fucking power. Andy then tells Jennifer to let Laura know if she was trying to get on as Margaret's friend, then tries to get on as Margaret's enemy, don't you think that production would be interested in that? And I'm starting to think that Andy does not like Jennifer. The way he be talking to her, it's kind of obvious. Is it just me? But yeah, it does make sense. She should have tried to come on as Margaret's enemy because clearly when she came on as Margaret's friend, they thought she was boring. But yeah, so when Andy says that, then Teresa interjects and says, well, that's how Melissa got on the show. And now here we go with the how Melissa got on the show. And y'all already know. This is a decade-long debate and we are tired. The cameraman even catches Dolores telling Danielle, this story is so old. And then Danielle's like, I want Shake Shack. Exactly. I wouldn't even be involved. I'll be thinking about something else. Like, what am I going to get for lunch? I think this is the only part of the season where I was with Danielle on that. She was so excited. I'm thinking of Shake Shack. They're going back and forth again, y'all. And Teresa's telling Melissa that I was your whole storyline. Melissa was like, well, your brother was your whole storyline. You should be thanking him. So then Teresa tries to go on this. And I want to say this right now. Like, of course, she saw that Carlos King clip where he was talking about the franchise and how he loved Teresa. And remember, he said she had a baby on the show. She lost her parents on the show. She went to jail on the show. She got divorced, got remarried. And what did Melissa do? Like, I know she couldn't wait to use that. So then she was trying to use it. And I'm so glad Melissa shut that down. She's like, oh, you went to jail. Okay, good for you. I love that part. And poor Andy, the cameraman zooms in on him as he's just like, oh God. So then Teresa pulls out what she thinks is a trump card. You know what? I'm gonna say this because I'm never gonna see you again. And then Melissa's like, bye-bye, bye-bye. Anyway, Teresa is trying now to imply that Melissa and Joe had something to do with her going to prison. And she said she heard this from Jacqueline, the original Jersey housewife, who she was beefing with for years, and now they're friends again. And they leave it on that cliffhanger, and that is where the episode ends, y'all. That was a really good part one. I enjoyed it. Most of the ladies clocked in. It was just so nice to see Melissa being fed up with Teresa's bullshit. She don't care what she say to Teresa now. And like, she was coming at her. I was like, who is this? Like, Melissa was definitely holding her own. Teresa, look, I still don't understand how y'all cape for this woman. She lied so many times, like a Jen Shaw level of lies during this. She contradicted herself and people still love her. Like, people can't stand Melissa and Margaret and I don't understand why. Please explain that to me in the comments. Anywho, y'all, I am definitely looking forward to the next two, especially with the preview coming up. We have a lot more reunion left, so yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you for part 2. Bye!